You see it every day at the airport. Just another sleek commercial airliner taxiing to the gate, passengers scrolling their phones, completely unaware they're sitting inside what's essentially a flying spy fortress. The Airbus A350 looks like your average wide-body jet, but let's just say even its windows have secrets that would make military contractors jealous. While you're sipping complimentary drinks at 39,000 feet, this aircraft is quietly doing things that sound ripped straight from a classified government program. And the craziest part? Even the pilots flying it don't know half of what's really going on beneath those composite wings. The wolf in sheep's wings doesn't announce itself with fangs and claws. It boards passengers with a smile, serves peanuts at cruising altitude, and lands gently at its destination. But underneath that commercial airline exterior lurks capability that would make defense contractors jealous. Here's what they don't advertise in the glossy brochures. The A350's composite airframe isn't just lighter than aluminum. It's virtually invisible to certain radar frequencies. That carbon fiber skin absorbs electromagnetic signatures like a sponge soaking up water. Airbus calls it fuel efficiency. Military analysts call it something else entirely. The wings tell an even stranger story. Spanning 212 feet, they flex up to 16 feet during flight. But hidden inside those graceful curves sits wiring that has nothing to do with passenger comfort. Communications arrays, sensor packages, equipment that shouldn't exist on a plane carrying vacationers to tropical destinations. Then there's the power generation system. The A350 produces enough electrical output to run a small town, over 1 megawatt of continuous power. For what? In-flight entertainment and reading lights? Not a chance. That's enough juice to power systems passengers never see, tucked away in spaces the cabin crew can't access. The deception runs deeper than anyone suspects. Every A350 rolling off the production line in Toulouse gets built to military specifications disguised as commercial requirements, reinforced floors that support weights far beyond luggage, pressurization systems designed to handle rapid altitude changes no airline would ever attempt. Let's just say the passenger version and the classified version share more than a paint scheme. The classified compartments built into the A350 during its development weren't accidents. Between 2005 and 2013, while Airbus publicly focused on fuel efficiency and passenger comfort, engineers in Toulouse worked on blueprints that would never see daylight. Spaces that don't appear on any official schematic, rooms that maintenance crews aren't cleared to enter. Start with the crown space, that area above the passenger cabin ceiling. On most aircraft, it's filled with wiring and air ducts. On the A350, certain sections remain mysteriously empty, or so the official documentation claims. But former assembly line workers tell a different story. They describe sealed compartments accessed through panels that require security codes to open, spaces large enough to fit equipment or people. Then there's the belly fairing, the smooth underbelly between the fuselage and landing gear. Standard aircraft use this area for aerodynamics. The A350 uses it for something else entirely. Independent aviation analysts noticed something bizarre during the prototype phase. The fairing volume exceeded what physics demanded by nearly 40%. That's enough space to hide a small vehicle. Airbus blamed it on structural requirements. Nobody bought that explanation. But here's where corporate espionage enters the picture. In 2011, a Boeing engineer was caught with stolen A350 design files. The charges were dropped mysteriously. The files were sealed. What was in those documents that warranted such secrecy? Rumors suggest compartmentalized spaces designed for purposes that blur the line between civilian and military aviation. The avionics bay tells the final piece of this puzzle. Located beneath the cockpit, it houses the aircraft's electronic brain. Except the A350's avionics bay is 3 times larger than necessary for commercial flight systems. 3 times. That's enough room for server farms, communications equipment, or surveillance gear that would make intelligence agencies drool. Access to these spaces requires biometric authentication, not keys, not codes, fingerprints and retinal scans on a passenger aircraft. Let's just say even the maintenance manual is classified at levels that shouldn't exist outside government facilities. The question isn't what these compartments hide, The question is, who decided a commercial airliner needed them in the first place? The invisible shield protecting the A350 didn't show up in marketing materials. During testing phases between 2013 and 2014, something extraordinary happened that Airbus never publicized. Test pilots reported electromagnetic anomalies that defied conventional aviation physics. The aircraft was deflecting signals it shouldn't even detect. Here's where things get actually scary. The composite skin isn't just carbon fiber. It's laced with metallic threads in patterns that mirror stealth bomber technology. That's military-grade radar absorption on a plane that's supposed to carry honeymooners to Paris. The material costs 15 times more than standard composites. 15 times. That's not about saving fuel. That's about staying invisible. But the real kicker, the A350 survived lightning strikes during testing that should have fried every electronic system on board. Direct hits delivering 200,000 amperes of current. Enough electricity to power a neighborhood for a month. The aircraft didn't even flinch. Because buried in that fuselage sits a Faraday cage so sophisticated it makes nuclear bunkers look primitive. Then there's the countermeasure system nobody talks about. Independent defense analysts spotted unusual heat signature dispersal patterns during test flights. The exhaust doesn't behave like normal jet engines. It diffuses in ways that confuse infrared tracking systems, the same technology used to guide surface-to-air missiles. And the windows, those aren't regular airplane windows. They're electrochromic smart glass embedded with sensors that detect laser targeting. Let's just say if someone points a weapon at this aircraft, it knows before the trigger gets pulled. This isn't passenger transport. This is a flying fortress disguised as economy class. Emergency protocols nobody knows exist on the A350 because they're not in the safety briefing cards. Since certification in 2014, the aircraft has carried evacuation systems so classified that flight attendants receive special clearance just to learn they exist. These aren't standard emergency slides and oxygen masks. This is escape technology borrowed from Black Ops playbooks. Hidden beneath certain floor panels sit emergency hatches that don't appear on passenger safety diagrams. They drop into the cargo hold, except calling it a cargo hold undersells what's really down there. In crisis scenarios, these hatches activate automatically, revealing escape routes that lead to reinforced sections designed to survive impacts that would obliterate the rest of the fuselage. Survival pods, essentially, built to withstand forces that make car crashes look gentle. The oxygen system tells an even more terrifying story. Standard aircraft carry enough supplemental oxygen for 15 minutes of depressurization. The A350? Try 4 hours. 4 hours of breathable air at 40,000 feet. That's not safety margin. That's preparation for scenarios aviation regulators don't discuss publicly. Scenarios involving prolonged flight at extreme altitudes where normal aircraft would suffocate everyone on board. Then there's the emergency power generation. If both engines fail, backup systems kick in that produce enough electricity to fly the aircraft remotely. Ground controllers can take over flight operations without pilot input, landing the plane using satellite guidance accurate to within 3 feet. The technology exists on every A350 rolling off the assembly line, but airlines don't advertise it. Passengers might ask uncomfortable questions about who really controls the aircraft. But here's the relief part. These systems work. In 2016, an A350 suffered catastrophic hydraulic failure over the Indian Ocean. The incident never made headlines. Because classified protocols engaged automatically, rerouting control through backup systems passengers didn't know existed. Everyone landed safely. The black box data remains sealed. Let's just say when things go wrong at 35,000 feet, this aircraft has contingencies, and most of them are too classified to print in the emergency procedures manual sitting in the seat pocket. The quantum leap in aviation technology didn't happen in a laboratory. It happened at 39,000 feet, inside an A350 cruising over the Atlantic. Since 2020, these aircraft have been running artificial intelligence systems so advanced they make smartphone assistants look like pocket calculators. And here's the kicker. The AI has been flying the plane more than the pilots realize. The flight management system processes 6 million data points per second. 6 million. That's analyzing weather patterns, air traffic, fuel efficiency, structural stress, and passenger comfort simultaneously, while making micro-adjustments humans couldn't execute if they tried. The autopilot isn't following pre-programmed routes anymore. It's learning, adapting, predicting turbulence before meteorologists detect it on radar. But the real mind-blower sits in the autonomous decision-making protocols. The A350 can recognize system failures before they happen, rerouting power and hydraulics through backup channels without bothering the cockpit crew. It diagnosed an engine-bearing defect over the Pacific in 2022, 3 days before the component was scheduled to fail. 3 days. The AI calculated metal fatigue rates from vibration patterns invisible to human monitoring. Then there's the neural network embedded in the flight control computers. It doesn't just respond to pilot input, it interprets intent. If a pilot makes an error during landing approach, the system gently overrides the command while making it feel like the pilot is still in control. Ego preservation meets artificial intelligence. The technology is so seamless that captains with 20,000 flight hours don't realize they're being assisted by machine learning algorithms. The communications array pushes into science fiction territory. Quantum encryption protects every transmission, making the aircraft's data streams literally unhackable by current technology. The encryption keys exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed. Physics that shouldn't work outside theoretical papers, running on a passenger jet. And the navigation system? It uses satellite constellations that don't appear on civilian registries. Let's just say the A350 knows its position to within millimeters using technology that makes GPS look ancient. This isn't the future of aviation, this is the present, flying overhead right now, disguised as business class. The ultimate secret behind the A350 isn't hidden in compartments or defense systems, it's buried in procurement documents that took Freedom of Information lawsuits to partially declassify. Between 2006 and 2019, 17 governments signed contracts with Airbus for specialized variants of the A350. 17. The purchase orders remain redacted. The aircraft serial numbers don't exist in civilian registries. These planes vanished into black project territory before leaving the factory floor. Here's what leaked documents reveal. Several A350s were delivered with modifications that cost more than the base aircraft itself. That's over $300 million in upgrades per plane. Upgrades for what? The paperwork lists mission-specific enhancements and strategic capability integration. Translation: these aren't passenger jets anymore. They're something else entirely. Intelligence analysts tracked one particular airframe, manufacturer serial number classified, that appeared briefly at a NATO facility before disappearing. Satellite imagery showed an A350 with no airline livery, painted in low visibility grey, equipped with external pods that don't exist on commercial variants. The aircraft conducted flight patterns consistent with electronic warfare testing. Then it vanished from tracking systems entirely. But the real bombshell came from a Pentagon budget leak in 2021. Buried in defense appropriations sat a line item for commercial platform conversion programs, totaling $4.2 billion. $4.2 billion. The primary contractor? Airbus. The aircraft type? Redacted. But the timeline matched A350 production schedules perfectly. The implications are staggering. Every commercial A350 might be one software update away from military deployment. The infrastructure is already installed. The systems are already integrated. The question isn't whether these aircraft can be weaponized. The question is how many already have been. So the next time an A350 taxis past at the airport, remember this. That sleek, quiet, fuel-efficient marvel of engineering might be carrying vacationers. Or it might be carrying capabilities that redefine what commercial aviation really means. Either way, nobody's telling, and that's exactly how they want it.